Afternoon and good evening, wherever you are. I'm Trudy, and this is our Insight LA Sunday Sitting Group. We're going to wait just a few minutes, seeing who's here and giving people a chance to arrive and say where you're from, and we'll start in about 4 minutes. Okay, so welcome once again. Uh, I'm Trudy, very happy to welcome you to our Insight LA Sunday morning sitting group, and looking forward to sitting and practicing with you all today. This has been a pretty rough week in terms of the news, and very, very painful actually. So I think we'll practice a very simple loving kindness meditation together, and then I'll say some words about how to be with ourselves and our situation, and really how to hold the heart's hurts and pains in loving awareness very tenderly. And I know I'm making, there was some good news this week too, and I don't want to assume that, everybody is upset about the reversal of Roe versus Wade, but as a woman, I am deeply upset. And so those of you who may disagree, just bear with me, and we're going to practice the Dharma together. So thank you, everybody, and let's sit together. And Ava, people are still arriving, so you keep an eye out, okay? Thanks. So finding the frame that your body can rest and be quiet in for about a half hour. If anybody's new to our group this morning, we divide the time roughly into thirds, where we sit for half an hour and then we have some teachings, enjoy those together, and then we have some dialogue and exchange. So let's sit together. Oh, I forgot to get the bell. So taking a deep breath in and releasing. And once again, breathing in this beautiful day or evening. And breathing out, releasing the tension that the body may be holding. And one more time. And just beginning this meditation by gently resting your attention, your awareness with the movement of the breath in the body. The Buddha's original instruction was to feel the breath in the breath, to feel the body in the body. So sensing and feeling the breath, breathing you from within the experience, the felt sense of the expansion and contraction of the rib cage, the rise and fall of the belly, the coolness of the inhalation in the nostrils, and the warmth of the exhalation. And to sense and feel the body from within the experience of being this body. Forgetting thoughts and judgments about it, Just feeling the sensations of the body, lying down, standing up, sitting still. And the touch points of sensation of the body with the chair or the cushion or wherever you're sitting or lying down, the feet on the floor, of the clothing against your skin. Aware of the constant presence of the breath, the constant companion throughout life, through every moment of this life. And appreciating the breath's steady, loyal, constant support by keeping the breath company with our attention, with your awareness, with your loving awareness. Steadying your attention on the breath signals the vagal nerve to activate the relaxing parasympathetic nervous system. Sitting together, appreciating the movement of the breath in the body. Grateful for the way the breath sustains this life we share. And each one of us relaxing into the safety of just this moment. And I'm going to offer some metta phrases for you. You don't need to repeat them. You can just receive them as you wish. May you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be safe. And all you have to do is receive and take it in. May you live with the ease of an open heart. May you be deeply peaceful. And may you shine the light of awareness on whatever is not peaceful, on whatever needs attention. May you be healthy and strong. May you be free from pain. And if that's not possible, may you accept your limitations with grace. May your heart be steady through the ups and downs of life. May you have the inner and outer resources you need. May you care for yourself joyfully. May you offer the same care and tenderness to yourself that you give to others. And may you love yourself, or at the very least, accept yourself completely, just the way you are. Imagining or visualizing a time when you felt good, when something good happened. Just anything that might bring a smile to the corners of your mouth. And just let that feeling of well-being and ease suffuse your whole body, your whole mind, your whole heart. Aware of the breath, soothing, refreshing. Caressing your consciousness. A steady, loving presence, sustaining your life. And when the mind wanders away into the past or the future, just very gently moving your body back to receive this moment, to receive the goodwill and kindness of self-care. As you breathe in, this nourishing air is infusing your whole being. And as you breathe out, letting the mind and the body settle into a little more calm and ease. May you be held and protected, safe and comforted. And when you notice there's been some distraction, may you welcome yourself back to this present moment. Welcome yourself back home with joy. And may you extend this care, comfort, and joy to all your friends and relatives and all the beings who have been in your life. Who have been part of your world and may still be. May all beings everywhere be safe and protected. May all beings be peaceful and healthy. May all beings be free. So, hi again, everybody. Today I'm speaking to you from the unceded lands of the Coast Miwok indigenous people who inhabited this land of Marin County, just north of the Bay Area, way before we ever did. And I want to talk with you. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings to share with you today, and I wanted to do that loving kindness meditation in a way that would be where yes, you can use the phrases, of course, but some people really cannot access that feeling of generous self-care or for others through these phrases. It just doesn't happen. So I thought maybe just receiving the metta, not having to generate it yourself, could be helpful, especially for today. So I want to look at the way that each one of us in our own hearts can contribute to peace in the world through the way that we're holding experience. And as I said at the beginning, just exploring how the disappointments, how the heart's hurts and pain can be held in the tender arms of our compassionate practice. We need this right now. And also to understand that at the root of most violence, including the violence of depriving others of rights, is is anger and hate. And it's often anger and hate that's generated by feelings of unbearable emotions, and often related to trauma and past traumas that people have suffered, right? And most of us were not taught in our families growing up or in our classrooms in school how to handle our rage, our grief, our despair, our fear, all of the really difficult emotions that can just capture the mind and take up so much room in our hearts. And they're really hard to acknowledge and to deal with skillfully. And that's why we come together to practice in groups and belong to a practice community, because it is hard to do and certainly hard to deal with skillfully. And our meditation is not just for achieving a sense of being nurtured and peaceful and calm and open to all life and connected to all life on the meditation cushion, or chair, or however you're sitting or standing or walking. It's really to it's to be able to live better, to live more kindly, to live more generously, to act from that sense of connection, to treat each other better, all of that. And we know that these practices of mindfulness, of loving awareness, of loving kindness, of compassion and self-compassion, all the things that are taught at InsightLA, we know that these practices can go a long way toward healing ourselves, especially when combined with other modalities like psychotherapy or other things. And as we heal ourselves and as we heal our own hearts, we really are helping to heal the world, because we become a person who can I wouldn't even say keep your balance, because I certainly didn't keep my balance this week. It's sort of like they had these dolls in Japan, and I used to see them when I was little, I think, but maybe they still exist. They were these sort of blow up plastic, they called them Bodhidharma dolls, with sand in the bottom. And so you could knock it over, and kids love this, because you could knock it over. Kids love to knock things over, right? And then it would bounce back up because it had that sand balancing it in the bottom. I spent time yesterday playing with our 3-year-old grandson, Desmond, and building these they're these tiles. They're kind of magnetic, and they fit together. They're really fun and different colors. We'd build this tall tower. But why did we build that tall tower, right? So that it could be smashed down, and that's so much fun. Well, that's not, you have to build it back up again, right? And I think that the hard part about what we're going through now is we're seeing rights that we've enjoyed for half a century being rolled back, rights that have been the law of our land and our country. And when things get smashed down like that, it takes time to build them back up, and a lot of work. So it's not as simple as, the doll just bouncing back. But I think that doll is, for me, it's actually a good metaphor for the meditation practice, for the way that a thought will kind of swoop in and knock you off your track, and you'll get distracted and start, going into a chain of thinking about it. And then there's the mindfulness that kicks in, and whoa, okay, back in the present moment, right? We're here. So, we're just in the midst of so much upheaval, it feels like, at this time. And I think of my brother who passed away 3 months ago now. And early this week, it was the 3-month mark, the 19th. Of March is when he passed away, and it was the 19th of June, and I was beginning to feel a lot more moments of joy percolating through the kind of shadow of grief that, of course, I've had lots of happy moments too, but there's been always this shadow of grief, of mourning. It's part of the process, and it's not over, and I don't expect it to be over, and don't want it even to be over so soon. But I started to feel these tendrils of joy, just lots more joy poking out. But then this was a really hard week. And I thought of my brother who left this country and became an expat about 10 years ago. And he was very dismayed at the way things were going. And this was, before things had gone this far. Let's just say that, before things had gone this far. So how do we find peace in the midst of this all, in the midst of the joys and the sorrows and the beginnings and the endings and the loss and the gain and the pain and the pleasure and all of it? And the beautiful news, the good news of of this practice is that your heart has the capacity to hold it all. It really does. Mine does, yours does. We have that capacity. It's a kind of equanimity. And equanimity doesn't mean just being indifferent or just some kind of preternatural calm spread over everything. It means being spacious, having some room in our hearts. It doesn't mean shrugging things off. It actually means paying attention. And I often use this word from psychoanalytic tradition, ambivalence, which doesn't mean the wobbling back and forth of our minds that just when we can't make it, when we're indecisive or ambivalating. It means, in that context, ambivalence means the capacity to hold opposites in the same heart. That love and hate, that joy and sorrow, that despair and hope, that all of these opposites can actually peacefully coexist in the same heart. Now, that doesn't mean that we feel them all at the same time. Of course, we don't. When I heard the news about Roe versus Wade, and I remembered friends, I'm old enough to have friends who almost died having illegal abortions. I just wept and cried. Now, there wasn't joy in that moment. It was pure sorrow, right? But then the next moment, I'm building a tower with a 3-year-old, and that's pure joy. And I think what I'm talking about is not sort of falling totally onto one side or the other. Like, okay, I'm just going to not read the news and mind my own business and, work in my garden and feel the joy in the flowers. Or I'm just sinking into depression and despair. Being able to have the maybe mobility of mind, the flexibility of mind to be present with intense feelings on one side or the other, the despair side or the hope side. And to not identify totally, I'm an angry person. I'm a person who's just in despair. I'm always cheerful and hopeful. I'm that kind of person. Not to identify, but to let these states be able to flow through us, because we are holding that space of loving awareness where things can arise and pass away. They can appear and disappear. They can be born and they can vanish. So that's really, we steady ourselves, we ground ourselves. It's like a tree developing these roots deep in the earth that then a storm can come and the tree can sway, and but it's not going to fall down. And it's like there's a saying in the Buddhist suttas that I'm sure most of you know, but it's so good to be reminded of it, which is that if you take a teaspoon of salt and you put it in a cup of water, right, it's really salty. If you take that same teaspoon of salt and you put it into a pond or a river or a lake, you aren't going to even taste it. Why? Because there's space. There's enough room. The water stays clear. And you can open your mind and heart in a spacious way that can hold these opposites. The 8 worldly winds of gain and loss and, success and failure and shame and fame and blame and, all these opposites. And like I said, it's not indifference. It's just being able to understand this is life. This is how it is. This is what it's like right now. And to be present with it. Jack loves this Ojibwa quote, which actually was made famous by Tony Soprano, if any of you watched that series. I didn't really watch it. My sister loved it, so I was always hearing great stories from it, where he says, and you have to understand, for those of you who may not be from this country or aware of that program, Tony Soprano was a gangster, a mobster, a guy who could, who could kill with equanimity, actually. Um, and he said, sometimes I go about in pity for myself, while all the while a great wind is carrying me across the sky. And that saying, it encapsulates both that personal sense and the universal sense. The personal sense of this is what's happening right now here in our country, and then the universal sense of in our country, a vast time and space. And my actual, I guess it's just a belief, but it's faith really and trust that these things that are happening right now, there are going to be new laws, stronger laws that enshrine all kinds of human rights. And that are maybe not us, maybe not even our kids, but our grandchildren and their children, I do believe are going to be living in a much better way. Depending on your age, maybe your children, my child is 54 this summer, later in the summer. She's going to say, don't rush me, Mom. My stepdaughter is going to be 37. They're bigger kids. Some of you obviously will have younger kids. But I do believe that things are going to get better. And then there's this way that it's so hard to look at people who feel the complete opposite from the way we do, when we know lives are going to be lost and women are going to die because of this decision that was made. What was it Arianna Huffington said? Oh gosh, some of you are going to probably hate me for quoting this, but she said, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember, but it was something like, to sum up the past week of the Supreme Court, you are, conception begins. No. It's about respect for life and conception beginning at the moment of conception. That's right. Life beginning. This is what it was. I can never remember jokes or sayings. Life beginning. That's why I have my notes here. Life beginning at the moment of conception and ending in a mass shooting. Like that's kind of the prescription, right? But, we still have to take our seat in this life, stand up in this life with as much clarity and presence as we can muster. It's more important now than ever. And it's a mystery what will happen or when. I think of Ram Dass so often. He gave a talk that I listened to this morning called Opening Your Heart in Hell. Not that we're in the kind of hell that they are in, say, Ukraine or someplace like that, other parts of the world that are in war or a refugee camp or so forth. But we're not comparing suffering. We're just acknowledging whatever that may be in your life or mine. He used to go swimming in the ocean. It was part of his post-stroke therapy. Or in a pool, not just in the ocean. But when he was able to swim in the ocean, he had this giant wheelchair with big rubber wheels that could go on the sand. And the super monkeys who took care of him, that's my name for them, for Hanuman, the god, the Hindu god who serves God, Ram. The super monkeys would roll that thing down over the sand, and then it was kind of like a chaise longue. So it could just like slide him into the water, and then he could slide off that support and float in the water. And he was paralyzed on one side, so he could only swim with one arm. And he was wearing a floaty thing, around his chest. But so somebody had to help steer on the other side, because obviously, right, if you only swim with one arm, what's going to happen? If you're swimmers, you're going to go in a circle, right? So I loved it when I got to be the one who would steer on the other side. And, he would swim out, and there was a buoy. He would swim out to the buoy, and maybe this was a play on words, but he would say, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy." And then he would say, "Oh joy, oh joy, oh joy." Now here's this dude who's sitting in a wheelchair. Well, it wound up being 23 years, in pain, needs like a fleet of people to help him go for a swim. And he's in total joy, right? In total joy. So, and he would say, things are falling apart everywhere. My body is falling apart. This is change. This is the reality of life. This is change. And what did he do? Well, when he could swim, it was, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, and oh joy, oh joy, oh joy. And when he would be just sitting up in his room, he just said, I look at clouds. I look at trees. I look at the sky. I look at the wind. That was my favorite one. I look at the wind. So this is what we can all do. We can take a moment wherever we are. We can treasure that moment. And sobbing is very close to laughing, actually. Whatever it is, we can treasure it because it is the truth of this moment in our life. We can swim in the present moment, swim and just let the past and the future flow by, leaving nothing but here and now. And when your presence, when my presence, when we are strong and grounded, that's palpable. It's a felt energy, like the energy of metta or loving kindness. And it naturally communicates to others. You can feel it. And we practice this loving kindness meditation to nurture ourselves, to take care of ourselves. I'm in a time of life where I need to take care of myself. And as I've been posting a lot of personal stuff on social media recently, teaching in that way because I want to transform, be part of the movement to transform the way social media is being used and make it more real. But also because, think about it, it's such a challenge, really, to take a teaching that I think of, that I want to share, and condense it into 30 seconds, right? It's like writing a haiku. That's how I think of it. It's really kind of beautiful. And I can't remember why I started talking about that. Oh, just because I've been sharing a lot. And, one of the things, whatever chance we have to share with others, our joy, our sorrow, to be real, to look at life straight up the way it actually is, right? We want to take that chance. And I think that just having a heart free of ill will, full of goodwill, any moment that your heart is free of ill will, free of anger and hate and full of goodwill, of the wish to nurture and to care for yourself, joyfully. That's, I've been looking at that one because as this is what I was going to tell you, it just came back to me. Yeah, when I was what I was sharing on social media, and it was so ironic because I shared this on the very day that Roe versus Wade was overturned. I talked about, for the first time, being pregnant at age 21 with my daughter, and that because I became a mom so young, my attention was always focused really more on care of another than on care of myself. And I didn't learn so well how to do that. So just now, really more in my life now, I'm learning how to do that and how to, and meditation, of course, is a beautiful way because it's nurturing by definition. Even if the content of your meditation is completely jumpy and distracted and unfocused, the doing of it is so nurturing. Recently, I read that the Dalai Lama said, just start with 30 seconds. I thought, really? Really? Okay, just start with 30 seconds. I used to be very judgmental of these people who were teaching, 8-minute meditations. And this was like, 20 years ago when that was new. And it was like, 8 minutes? It takes me 20 minutes to settle down. But we just need to start somewhere. And hey, 30 seconds is good. Maybe some of you meditate once a week in this group. I know that I read 2 years ago that in Japan they had these zazenkai, these zazen meditation clubs where people would get together, say like a book group on a Tuesday, and meditate together. And that would be their meditation for the week that they did together, and maybe a little bit at other times, but again, just appreciating whatever you're able to do and really appreciating yourselves for being here today, for practicing together as we are doing. Today I'm going to be going back to LA, so I might need to just end 5 minutes earlier because of when our flight is. And I want to just read you a part of a poem to close this talk. It's by the Spanish poet Antonio Machado, and it's a piece of the poem that I really love. He says, "Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures." So this is my wish for our country, for each other, that something good will come of what may look like a failure. And maybe next week we'll do some forgiveness practice for our failures. What we don't need, actually, what we need most is not, it's really not success or perfection, or what is it, the things we might really yearn for, We don't need success as much as we want love in our life, right? And I don't need to compare myself with others who might be better, bigger, I don't know what I would compare myself to in different ways, but I do need sharing and connection and joy. It is a joy to be here with you, and I thank you so much because I get to have this sharing and connection with you. So thank you all, and we have time now for you to speak, to share things that you may, reflections from your own practice and your own life. So please don't be shy. Whatever you share is going to help somebody else for sure, for sure. Robert. Ava, can you help Robert unmute himself?
Go ahead, Robert. You should be able to unmute now.
Aha, excellent. Thank you, Trudy. I've been really strikingly kind of overwhelmed by all of this week. And I've spent my life compartmentalizing pretty well. And as I get older, the more I do the practice, the less I'm able to do that, which has its joys and sorrows. What was really helpful was a lot of what you said. I deeply kind of believe that the trajectory is good. I suppose I'm at an age now where I'm just aware that I may not see the fruits of the trajectory of the good stuff that's to come. And that was really sad to me. Like to live with this in this political environment for maybe the next 20 years, depending on how things go, having lived it through the AIDS crisis and the homophobia and all of that of the 80s, and imagining living through it again, I just felt overwhelmed by it in a way that I was just surprised by. And everything you said really struck a really helpful chord for me. I was meditating once and I heard kind of a voice basically saying, and I understood that to be, oh, I can have both. I can have both. And the ambivalence, it's funny. It was, I have not been able to hold both since Roe, and knowing what could come from this decision about Roe, about gay rights, about so many different things. But I can feel, the joy of like the life that I'm fortunate enough to live, as well as the sadness about the pain that's going to come for lots and lots and lots of people, and the pain that's there now. So, but it was really helpful. I felt like I often hear people say, "Oh, you're speaking for me." It's such a, and this time it really felt that way. So I really appreciate it because it's been a very emotional week. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been an emotional week. I feel that too. And I do. I also feel for all the, gay and lesbian marriages that may be threatened next, and to have to be concerned about the legality of your family. And I mean, all of these things are scary and hard and so we really need our practice and we really need each other more than ever right now. So, yeah, thank you, Robert. Judy.
Yes, hi. I'm new to this session and I'm very grateful to have tuned in today, and it's been very meaningful. So thank you very much. I've been reflecting a lot, of course, on Roe v. Wade and all of what it means for the future. But really what I have spent some time on is going back to when Roe v. Wade came out as a Supreme Court decision. I was in law school at the time, and kind of part of that early wave of women going into law school. We didn't have very many women in my class, but it was a time of, felt like a lot of positive change. And when Roe v. Wade was decided, I remember this feeling of, this is monumental. It's a huge step forward for women and women's rights. And it felt really permanent. Like when the Supreme Court decides on something like this, it's like the gold standard.
The law of the land.
Yeah, I mean, like Brown v. Board of Education. I mean, it was right up there. And to like almost 50 years later, realize no, it wasn't permanent and it could be changed. And feels so much like we're reverting to some days of yore, is I've tried to put it together with my Buddhist studies and practice of impermanence. It's the, that legally enacted or proclaimed rights. It's part of a human construct, right? And a construct outside of kind of the natural order of things. And in that sense, those things are never permanent. They're always fragile. Our democracy is fragile, as we've seen in the last few years, particularly, I think. and just to also try to take it as a lesson of impermanence and fragility. And then on the positive side, what can I do as an individual to work toward more strengthening and protection of those important features of our society. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Um, I wanted to find a link to one of our InsightLA teachers, Karen Redding, who teaches in, I guess it's called South Bay in Laguna Beach. I know I've lived here 20 years and I still barely know my new state. I came from Massachusetts, but Karen's husband, Ed Kaufman, is a psychiatrist he's a really sweet, beautiful guy who has devoted his life. He's in his 80s now. He's devoted his life to working with incarcerated people and addicted people and just a lot of the overlooked people in our privileged world. And he actually, before the Supreme Court ruling, spoke out to the LA Times in a video, which you could find it, Ava, and post it because the LA Times reprinted it. I think today, actually. Hold on. Let me just check. It was,
You said Karen Redding's husband?
yes, it was printed as a letter to the editor today with a link to the video. And if you could just post, it says infected abortion wards will come back. And it's under the Hear Me Out opinion video series. So you can find it and post it for people. Yes, Karen Redding's husband. She's a beautiful teacher and she's also a psychoanalyst and he's a really
What's his first name?
Edward Kaufman, Kaufman, and it's in the Hear Me Out, a Times Opinion video series, but they printed part of it as a letter to the editor. Part of it, but it also, I think, it has a link to the video, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it says, watch this letter writer tell his story at latimes.com/hear me out. So it's latimes.com/hear me out. And they published the letter at the end of May, it says, before the video featuring the writer was produced. But any of you who are interested, Ava will find it because she's great at finding things and she'll put it in the chat. Thank you, Ava. Is there anybody else who would like to speak their mind or heart? We will hear you out. Sherry.
Yeah, I've been very sad this week, and I think about my children who their first time to vote was 2016, both of them. And at that time, my daughter and her friends had like this morning kind of wake kind of ceremony, and it just feels really, it's just sad is the biggest emotion that I have besides the anger and frustration, but not knowing how this is going to affect my children's lives. And I want to tell you thanks for the meditation, because trying to hold all of that plus bear up under working with other people and my children and my special needs son, it feels like it's really hard to just let down and receive. And so that's really, really, it was really beautiful today.
Oh, good, good. I thought we might all need that today. Thank you. It's interesting. I remember when Hillary Clinton lost the election, whatever you may feel about Hillary Clinton, she was really important to young girls. And my granddaughter went to a girls' high school, And they actually had to have an assembly
Mm.
after the election. And the assembly, it makes me cry. It was filled with sobbing girls. And, you know, some of the women who screamed at their sisters for entering an abortion clinic to get their reproductive health care, um, when they would get pregnant, they would go to that clinic. We know this, you know. So I have hope that even though people may be screaming this or that political slogan, when they get pregnant and can't get an abortion, I mean, the sad part is that wealthier women will always be able to travel and get a safe abortion. And and that's part of what Ed talked about. He was speaking from the time of his residency before Roe versus Wade
Mm.
and how he was working at County Hospital and the women were so sick and many of them died.
Mm.
Came in with infections from abortions and he said he remember in his memory they were all women of color.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Yeah. So Ilsa, thank you, Sherry. Thank
Hi,
you.
good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to share, I have had two abortions in my life, and both times when I reflect back, I was in no financially, emotionally in a position to have a child. And I just can't imagine. And one of them I actually took a morning after pill and it didn't work. So just of knowing that how many millions of women are in that situation. And again, if finances are not there to travel, I feel like there will be a lot of suicides.
There will be.
And so anyways, yeah, I feel grief
I do
towards
too.
others.
I do too. Because, like I said, I remember back to the time when this was happening to friends, you know, and yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's really, and thank you for your courage in naming that you had an abortion. And because I'm sure I had an abortion years and years ago. I was married to somebody who made me and I was too young to resist this awful choice. If you have that child, I will leave you. And I was married to that person. And you know, I'm sure there are other women sitting in these Zoom squares who have also been up against it in their lives, a seemingly impossible choice, because no one of us ever wants to end the possibility of a life, especially when you've had children. If you've had kids, you know, and you realize, oh my gosh, you know, um, and in many cases, it could be okay, but in most cases, it is not because women do not choose to end a pregnancy lightly. It just doesn't happen. Um, so, yeah, thank you for speaking out. I even was thinking when it was leaked, when Judge Alito's opinion was leaked a while ago, and we knew this was coming. I thought maybe I will do a series of teachings from my own experience about this issue, and maybe I'll do it on social media. And then I just thought, I have to be personally ready for the onslaught of hate that will come if I choose to do that. And I was not at that point. It was right after my brother died, and I was really not feeling sturdy enough to do that. But I will sometime. Yeah. And thank you for your courage. Oh, good. I knew she'd find it. Thank you, Ava.
Actually, Lynn found it before me and she shared the link with me. So
Oh,
I
okay.
could, yeah, thank you to Lynn.
Okay. So, Lana. Lana, you can unmute yourself, or maybe you didn't mean to have your hand up.
Yeah, I didn't mean to have my hand up.
Okay, then, Maddie.
Okay.
No, that's okay. No problem.
Mhm.
Maddie had mentioned in the chat. Maddie, you want to say something?
Hi, this is Maddie.
Hi.
Hi, I want to share my long experience. I am 80 now, and in 1966, I was pregnant with my first child, and I had gone back to junior college and had a speech class. And there was a lot of talk about legalizing abortion then. And I hate speaking, but I thought this was an opportunity for me to speak about how strong my feelings were about legalizing abortion. And I stood up there very pregnant, like 8 months or so. And I said, I am so intense about having abortion legalized. And my reasons were, of course, for women's rights, and that emotionally they may not be able to handle raising a child, but also the child itself. If you are poor, you already have 3 or 4 kids, and you don't have a husband, and you're trying to work and support your children, and you get pregnant, that is a hideous way to bring a child into the world. Not only will you be emotionally unfit, but I really believe that whether this is passed on verbally to this child or not, the feeling of being unwanted would be very, very present in their lives and very damaging. And so they looked at me, of course, then like I was crazy because there I was very pregnant. And I said, no, you don't understand. This is a wanted child. I'm married. I chose to have this child. But I think about all these poor women that are not able, for one reason or another, to have a child. Um, and I felt such sadness and despair for those women and the unborn child. Oh my God. Um, I don't know if these people take any of that into serious consideration, but the child going forward doesn't have a great chance for a decent life. And anyway, when this thing happened on Friday, I was talking to my daughter, who's 52, and I mean, we were in a rage. I was out of my mind in a rage, thinking all of these years have gone by, and I thought everything was safe, like so many other women. And
Maddie, we have to stop in just a moment.
sure. So I just wanted to say that I am deeply sad and hope that this world will change.
Yeah, thank you for speaking out for women's rights. And, we really are the only wealthy industrialized nation that doesn't take good care of women's reproductive health and give them the right to choose for their own bodies. So that, says something about our place in the world. Um, and I know that some of you will have a strong reaction to my speaking out about this. Um, but I'm sorry if I have offended you. I do respect everyone's ability to choose the opinion, the thoughts, the feelings, their political stance that they have. Um, Definitely respect that and respect you if you differ and disagree. In the end, what I'm teaching is how to hold difficult emotions and how to hold difficult experience in our practice and how our practice can help us do this. And so it's 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 an example, it's a story of our time, of facing ourselves and facing history and facing what's happening not hiding, not turning away, but really using our practice, including facing the disagreements or the aversion that you may have. And if you do, I just want to encourage you before I say goodbye, because I do need to stop 5 minutes early today. I want to encourage you not to let me turn you off from the teachings if you're new to the teachings, and not let this particular meeting, which is a little unusual, to turn you off of the possibility of coming back and strengthening your practice through being part of this community. So that's very important to me. Thank you again, everybody, for today. Have a nurturing week of caring for yourself joyfully. And let's just sit for one moment together before we stop. And at the end of a period of study and practice together, we offer the goodness of our practice. We share whatever goodness or blessing has come from it to all beings without exception. May we and all beings care for ourselves joyfully. May we and all beings learn to live in peace and respect for each other's views and life choices, and continue to grow in love and wisdom and compassion. Thank you, everybody. Bye. You can unmute yourselves and say hi, goodbye.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you, Trudy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Trudy. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Trudy.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Trudy. Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
See you next time.
We're gonna have